On the day of my dear mother's funeral, my sister-in-law laughed and accused me of oversleeping and skipping the funeral. This is the same sister-in-law who coerced my frail mother into giving her nearly $200,000 for a new house. Trying to control the tremor in my voice from sheer outrage, I said, "Fine, but you're going to regret this, sis." "I won't regret anything." "Have a good one," she replied before ending the call. After the funeral, I showed my brother something that even made him, usually so gentle and calm, change his demeanor. With anger in his voice, he said, "Lisa, I need your help. We're going to drag her down to hell." My name is Lisa. I'm 28 years old and single. I have a fulfilling job and, despite being busy every day, I'm holding up well. Today is a weekend, a day off from work, and I returned home to visit my mother after a long while. "Hi Mom, have you been doing well?" "Welcome back, Lisa. I'm glad to see you," she said. We talked as we had tea together. My mother is a kind, gentle, and elegant person. A few years ago, my father passed away, and she has been living alone ever since. Both my father and I have always been concerned about my mother's health because she's always been weak. So, I take the opportunity on my days off to visit her and catch up. "Mom, has anything troublesome or unusual happened recently?" "Well, there's something." Just as my mother was about to begin, the doorbell rang. It must be Stephanie. Stephanie? Was she supposed to come today? No, not exactly, but she drops by like this from time to time. I'll get the door. My mother hurried off towards the door. Stephanie is my older brother's wife. They recently got married. She is my sister-in-law. I often wonder how my brother, who is rather quiet and easygoing, ended up marrying someone as talkative and pretty as her. Even though I find her unannounced visits a bit intrusive, I appreciate her for caring about our mother. "Hello, everyone." "Oh, Lisa, long time no see." "Hello, it's been a while." "Lisa, you're still living for work, aren't you? You work in accounting, right?" "Personally, I could never do it. I'm totally swamped with housework, and it'd be nice if you could get married soon too." "Yeah, maybe," I replied. My sister-in-law is meek in front of my mother, but from time to time, she makes such passive-aggressive comments to me. I don't know if she means any harm, but it certainly makes me uneasy. "It seems like my sister-in-law is here too, so I'll be going now," I said. When I said goodbye to my mother, she replied, "All right, Lisa. Let's catch up more next time," and saw me out. I wondered if Mom was getting along well with that sister-in-law. She's not the type to talk badly about others, so I worried she might be bottling something up. Concerned, I headed back home. A few months later, I heard from my mom that my brother was building a fancy new house. Huh? My brother has a decent income, but he's not exactly rich, right? And my sister-in-law is a full-time homemaker. How are they able to build such a house? Well, I actually helped him out a bit with some money from your father's inheritance. How much do you mean by a bit? About $200,000, I suppose. $200,000? Mom, are you out of your mind? I let out a loud voice of surprise. My brother and I were raised by our late father to be independent once we reached adulthood, so I couldn't comprehend why my mom would give away such a large sum of money. Well, Stephanie, your sister-in-law, came over almost every week begging for help, so I just. And besides, Andrew and Stephanie promised to take care of me since we'll be living together. I couldn't turn them down. Well, if you're okay with it, Mom. But are you sure you're not overdoing it? No, not at all. This will mean less worry and trouble for you, Lisa. I'm actually looking forward to this new life, Mom said with a smile. Later on, they built their house, and my brother, his wife, and Mom started living together. When I visited to bring a housewarming gift, I was taken aback by the luxurious house with its modern-style kitchen and bathroom, expensive-looking interior with pure wood, and spacious backyard. There was no way my brother could afford all this on his own. My sister-in-law proudly showed me around the house, and once the tour was over, I quietly spoke to my brother. Congrats on your new house, Andrew. Please take good care of Mom. Thanks, Lisa. Don't worry, Stephanie will look after Mom while I'm at work. I didn't mind Mom offering to contribute, but we were determined to ensure her happiness moving forward. However, it seemed my brother was unaware that his wife had repeatedly visited Mom to beg for money for their new house. I find my brother to be a kind person, but his obliviousness worries me at times. Just make sure to take care of her, all right? You too, leave Mom to us and focus on your work. Don't bring up work. Oh, right. Sorry. After finishing our conversation, I gifted him an envelope with some cash and a standing clock. This clock also helps monitor health, so please place it somewhere visible in the living room. Thanks. This clock is pretty high-tech, huh? But it could be good for Mom and it looks stylish. Let's put it here. My brother placed the clock on a shelf in the living room. I should head home now. Take care. My sister-in-law was busy on the phone in another room, and I left the grand house with my mother and brother seeing me off. Half a year later, my mom, who had been a concern, seemed to be getting along well with my brother and his wife, allowing me to focus on my work. I thought these peaceful days would continue until I heard the devastating news of my mom's passing. When my brother returned from work, he found that our mother had stopped breathing. It seemed she had passed away alone in her room. The doctors at the hospital explained that her pre-existing heart condition, exacerbated by overwork, was the likely cause of death. Mom, why all of a sudden? Mom, I wish I had come home earlier. I'm sorry. My brother and I clung to our now lifeless mother, tears streaming down our faces. My sister-in-law, Stephanie, wasn't present at the scene. Brother, wasn't Stephanie supposed to be at home? And what do they mean by overwork? Stephanie wasn't home, and as for overwork, I don't know either. Stephanie handled all the household chores, so it doesn't make any sense. My brother seemed confused as well. Despite feeling uneasy, I spoke up. Well, first we need to arrange our mother's wake and funeral. You'll probably be the chief mourner, Andrew. You're right. Lisa, can you help me? So, my brother and I began frantically preparing for the memorial service. It was overwhelming, the number of preparations we had to make for our mother's funeral, from finding a venue to deciding on the plan and contacting people. Somehow, we managed to finish the wake, and the next day was the day of the funeral. While my brother and I busily attended to our visitors, my sister-in-law was idly sitting around doing nothing. Stephanie didn't help, nor did she shed a tear. Despite my growing frustration with her, the bustle of the event prevented me from confronting her. Andrew, tomorrow is the funeral, and as the chief mourner, you're going to be really busy. Why don't you and Stephanie go home for a while? I'll stay here. Yeah, I appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you. My brother and Stephanie left together. After they left, I took out my work laptop in the now empty room and began to work throughout the night. I barely slept. The next morning, the day of the funeral was scheduled to start at 10 a.m. I met up with my brother at 6 a.m. to prepare. We were overwhelmed with preparations, checking the eulogy my brother had written as the chief mourner, meeting with the funeral director, and so on. My brother had said that Stephanie would come later when it was time for the funeral. Then, around 9:30 a.m., I received a call from Stephanie. Hello, Lisa. I'm calling because Andrew wouldn't pick up his phone. Okay, hi. I just woke up. I overslept. I won't be able to make it to the funeral. Struggling to keep my voice steady without rage, I managed to respond. All right, but you might regret it, you know, Stephanie. I don't think so. Anyway, I know you're busy, but hang in there. Stephanie hung up. My brother approached and asked, Hey, was that Stephanie just now? Yeah, she overslept and said she's not coming today. Huh? What on earth is she saying? It's our mother's funeral. Just focus on the funeral, Andrew. I have something to show you afterward. Somehow, we managed to get through the funeral together. My brother and I paid our respects to our mother's remains. Stephanie really didn't show up. What on earth was she thinking? By the way, Lisa, what is it that you wanted to show me? Sure, Andrew. Take a look at this. I pulled out my laptop. What appeared on the screen was the living room of my brother's house. I had given my brother a clock as a gift, which had a hidden camera installed in it. The camera was intended for keeping an eye on elderly family members or pets. I had given it to him out of concern for our mother's well-being. However, since she seemed to be doing well, I didn't want to invade the privacy of my brother's household, so I never looked at the footage until yesterday. When I finally reviewed the footage from the past week, I found shocking evidence of my sister-in-law exploiting our mother. I showed the videos to my brother, who watched them with bated breath. The recordings revealed our frail mother being forced to do all the household chores by my sister-in-law, Stephanie. My mother was seen cooking, doing laundry, and cleaning, working to the point of exhaustion. Occasionally, she clutched her chest in discomfort and seemed to hesitate to make a phone call, ultimately deciding against it. My mother, always wishing for our happiness, never told us about the harsh treatment she was receiving. My brother and I were devastated, tears streaming down our faces as we realized the extent of our mother's suffering. Lisa, can we see the footage from the day Mom passed away? My brother asked. Although I hadn't reviewed it yet, I set the recorded footage to that date, explaining that Mom had passed away in her own room, which might not be captured by the camera. The footage showed our mother clutching her chest and heading towards her room after finishing her morning chores. The living room was empty for a while until my sister-in-law entered around noon. As we increased the volume, we could hear her calling out to my mother without getting a response. Assuming Mom was not home, Stephanie sat on the sofa and made a phone call. She spoke callously about our mother, mentioning that she had left the chores half done and even joked about the possibility of her being dead. My brother and I were horrified when Stephanie's conversation revealed that she was planning a future with her lover, talking about skipping the funeral and taking a trip with him. Unable to listen any further, my brother interrupted the recording and, with a voice filled with anger, declared, "Lisa, I need your help. We're going to drag her down to hell." I nodded in agreement and made a phone call. The next day, my brother called me at home. "Lisa, she's back. Can you come over?" he asked. I immediately headed to his house. Upon arrival, Stephanie greeted me, slightly annoyed by my sudden visit. We all sat at the dining table, the air thick with tension. Stephanie maintained her usual tone, claiming to feel bad about missing the funeral. I confronted her directly, stating that she had been treating our mother like a servant and had even made her pay $220,000 for the new house. Stephanie, feigning ignorance, denied the accusations and tried to defend herself by saying she did all the housework. I revealed that everything had been recorded and that I was actually a private investigator, not an accountant as she believed. My brother was the only one who knew the truth about my job. I showed Stephanie the footage of our mother doing chores under her command, which was recorded by the hidden camera in the clock. Outraged, Stephanie accused me of violating her privacy and demanded that I delete the footage. My brother calmly responded, asserting his rights as the homeowner to install the camera. As Stephanie's voice trembled, my brother played the audio recording of her phone call, where she had callously discussed our mother's death and her plans with her lover. The reality of her actions dawned on her, leaving her speechless as we presented the undeniable evidence of her exploitation and callousness towards our mother. Stephanie's face went pale as the recording played, her voice unmistakable. "A trip with Daniel, maybe make up a story about domestic abuse from my husband for a big divorce settlement. No, this isn't what it seems. Please, hear me out." Stephanie pleaded, but the words were already echoing in the room. "What's the difference? Tell me," my brother demanded, his voice tight with anger. "We were just joking around." "I didn't cheat, there's no evidence," Stephanie insisted, her voice trembling. "But there is evidence," I said calmly, spreading several pictures across the table. The images showed her leaving a nearby resort with a man, getting intimate in their car, and entering a hotel together. It was clear evidence of her infidelity. "What's this? How did you get these?" Stephanie's voice was a mix of shock and desperation. "You told him over the phone about your trip plans and how you wanted to spend the night together. I had someone from our company take these photos," I explained. "How could you do such a thing during our mother's funeral?" As I spoke, Stephanie's temper flared. "Oh, enough. What's wrong with you all?" she yelled. My brother stood firm. "There's no way we can stay married after this, Stephanie. We're getting a divorce." Stephanie's defiance didn't waver. "But I'm going to take plenty of alimony, and you're going to have to move out of this house." My brother and I exchanged a glance, incredulous. "What on earth are you talking about?" I asked. "When people get divorced, the wife receives alimony, right? Now hurry up and give me my money," she demanded. That's not true. Since you cheated, you're the guilty party, and you'll have to pay compensation to my brother," I corrected her. "Obviously, you're a bigger fool than I thought. Just like Lisa said, I'm going to demand alimony from you and from your lover too," I continued. Stephanie's face turned red with fury. "What? Besides, it's for me to tell you to leave. Don't ever come back," I said firmly, handing her a suitcase. She stood there speechless as I guided her to the entrance and closed the door behind her. Afterward, I gently patted my brother's shoulder. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Stephanie had taken it to mediation, but the mediators frowned upon seeing the evidence my brother had gathered. It turned out she had been squandering money from their joint bank account as well. My brother managed to divorce her with almost no division of assets. True to his word, my brother claimed alimony from his ex-wife and her lover. The lover, who had intended to move in with Stephanie with a large sum of alimony, was infuriated by the claim and immediately dumped her. With nowhere to live and dumped by her lover, Stephanie now lives alone in an old apartment, working part-time. My brother, though initially depressed, eventually sold the house and decided he had enough of marriage. He now lives alone. Seeing him so lonely, I'm considering introducing him to a kind woman I recently met through work. She is also divorced, so they might be able to relate to each other easily. With those thoughts in mind, I head out and work hard again today.